All right, everyone's ready. They've got their questions, their topics, and their messages. Now it's time for the main event, the actual conversation, where every word decides exactly how much attention it's going to pay to everyone else in the room.
Okay, deep breath. This might look a little intense, but don't worry. This is the famous formula that makes the magic happen. We're not going to get bogged down in the math, I promise. Instead, we're just going to break down what it's doing, step by step, using our meeting analogy.
So here's how that conversation unfolds. First, you compare. Every word's query, its question, gets matched up with every other word's key to see how well they fit. This gives you a compatibility score. Second, you scale. We just shrink those scores down a bit to keep the numbers from getting out of hand. Third, you weigh. A cool function called softmax turns all those scores into simple percentages, from 0 to 100. These are your final attention weights. And last, you combine. Each word creates a new, updated version of itself by mixing together the values, the actual messages, from all the other words based on those percentages. It's a massive collaborative brainstorm.
And to make sure this whole system doesn't just fall apart, we use a trick called add and norm. The add part is basically a shortcut. It adds the original information back in, which is a neat way to make sure the word doesn't forget its original meaning after all these calculations. And the norm part? Think of it like a janitor, just tidying up the numbers and rescaling them to keep everything stable and prevent the math from going crazy.
So, this is the complete journey for one single word. It starts as a simple embedding. It goes through the big attention meeting, it gets stabilized with add and norm, it does some private thinking in the feed-forward network, it gets stabilized one more time, and finally, it comes out the other side as a brand new vector, now packed with all that amazing context from its neighbors.
Now, for those of you who really like to see the numbers, this gives you a peek at how the shape of our data changes along the way. You start with a big vector, you shrink it down for the efficient conversation part, then you expand it way out for the deep thinking part, and finally, you bring it right back to the original size, but now it's way, way smarter.
So we've just walked through one really powerful conversation. But, what if one conversation just isn't enough? What if a word needs to figure out its grammar, its meaning, and its connection to some word way on the other side of the sentence, all at the same time? Well, that leads us to a final, pretty mind-blowing question. What if an AI could have a whole bunch of these conversations in parallel, all at once, with each one focused on something totally different? And that's where things get really interesting.